Chair recognizes Representative Mabra to speak on the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the members of the House, usufruct, usufruct, usufruct. I said it 3 times. We got to talk about these words here because this is a word game here. I looked at those lines that he quoted out, lines 20 and 21. And since I've been here for a few days, I've learned a few things. They told me about this thing called a catfish. I said, what is a catfish? They said that's when you change one little word in the bill from shall to may. I said, shall, that won't hurt it. That does everything, shall or may. That's called a catfish. You're gutting something, right? Well, I say, well, what happens when you take a valid law that is helping people and you want to gut the whole thing? I said, that's a killer whale, then. That's got to be a killer whale. The other one's a catfish. And let's look at these words here. Regardless of the extent of such interest, that means any interest. So we're going to talk about the usufruct, and so I looked it up. And we mentioned leaseholds. Usufruct is like a license. Let's look at the root of the word, usufruct. Use means I can use something. Fruct, it sounds in Latin. Fruit, fructose, fructus. That's fruit. That means I can use the land, take the fruit, and you get no benefit. The benefit is all for me. We call that profit. Other people might say that's raping the land. Taken and no one gets anything but the person who has that license. And so I say to you, so we're talking about the airport here. And we looked at the contracts. And I looked at this bill and I said, well, we're striking out 14 words here. This is a page bill, just 1 page. That's all. Not complicated. But I'm just an old country attorney here, so I looked at those 14 words and I said, hey, what's going on here? And I thought about it and I said, and then they added 10 words and they said, so long as the interest creates an estate in the land. So they took out any interest. And then they said, as long as it creates an estate in the land. Well, a lease is an estate in the land, a leasehold agreement. And I don't know about you, but I'm a business owner, and I signed a lease. I didn't sign a usufruct, signed a lease. And you could break a lease, you could break a usufruct. And so I looked at the contract between the concessionaires in the city of Atlanta, and there goes that word, usufruct. Said, this is not a lease. This is a usufruct. So I looked at this bill, and the bill only talks about leaseholds now. And they said, we're going to take that any interest language out so it doesn't apply to usufruct, because usufruct is an interest, it's a license. I mean, you can go and use, rate, take the fruit, and take it somewhere else. And so who is this hurting? This is hurting the taxpayers of Clayton County, the people around the airport. And I rise in opposition of HB 399. It's not right. In this word game, as an attorney, this is my occupation. I stand up and I fight for the little people. And so we got business owner interests that are being taken care of here. This protects the concessionaires. It's not looking out for the taxpayers of Clayton County and the surrounding airport. And so I ask you to oppose this bill with me. Stand up for justice. And I look at it and I want to say, hey, this should fail on all measures. Shouldn't even made it out here, but it did. It did. And so I looked at the 14 words that they're cutting out and the 10 words that they're adding in. And I said, hey, who's losing here? The taxpayers. What are we losing? 10 to 14 million. So I said, how ironic is that? Cutting out 14 words, adding 10 words, and we're losing 10 to 14 million. And so I tell you, when you get ready to hit your button today, you think about that usufruct, and you say it 3 times to yourself, and then you hit that red button. I yield the well.